SNL with Landry Locker and Cody Stoots. CJ Stroud, interesting year too. I would say whether there was regression or not, I don't think the stock in CJ Stroud is as high heading into year 3 as it was in year 2. I think even the ultimate optimist can admit that for whatever the reason. But his media availability, his final media availability was really, really interesting. He said some really, really interesting things, starting with like somewhat of a confession about maybe the mindset he had this season. Let's hear from CJ Stroud talking about perhaps some overconfidence.
Like I learned, that you can't get comfortable. There's one thing in this league, being comfortable will get you got. And I think for me, I wouldn't say that I was comfortable, but I definitely had a feeling like I knew I was gonna do well, and even that's dangerous. So, and I would say, man, it's cliche, but you really can control what you can control. Control the controllables. Like if you can't control it, you can't let it stress you. As best as to your ability. It's either said than done. So I would say those two of the main things I learned was, don't get comfortable and stay hungry and, control the controllables.
I think there's a couple things there to take away. It is SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Subscribe on all podcast platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to both of ours. By the way, we're going to be at the NFL Combine. That's officially official. So we will be at the NFL Combine. We got you covered there. Like no one else. We don't have to be there to have the best coverage, but we're there, so it makes it even the best coverage that you can possibly get even more. My thing with this is, number one, I think it's interesting that he's admitting that maybe his mindset wasn't right and he was overconfident. The other thing is, think about the things he can't control. Can't control the offensive line and can't control injuries. And I think that's kind of something else that perhaps he's mentioning when it comes to the frustration. I think the offensive line kind of broke CJ this year. I mean, when someone comes out and says, I got to start having fun again, it's admitting that you're not having fun. So regardless of the reason, I think he's basically saying that he got frustrated by the offensive line, and he's admitting that maybe he thought this was a little bit easier than it actually is.
The overconfidence thing for me is the bigger red flag, because to get to a level of being overconfident and to have a thought, well, I'm going to crush it and we're going to be even better than where we were last year, was to ignore the hard work that it took to be good last year. And you think about some of the issues that CJ Stroud had this season, a lot of his basics were some of the things that you can be critical of when you start thinking about some of his performances and what he could control and what he was in control of. You're right. He can't control the offensive line. He can't make those 5 guys or Dalton Schultz block better than they did for most of the season. But the footwork, that's totally on him. The decision-making with the football, when he doesn't throw it, when he sees stuff, or when he doesn't see stuff, that's on him. And those were things that were good last year for CJ Stroud. So I do wonder if he, here at the end of the season, or maybe he realized it in the middle, wherever he realized it, if he realized he was too confident coming into the season, hopefully he understands where in the process he failed himself so that he fixes those things going into the next year. And that to me is, overconfident. It almost felt like he was ready for calculus before he really had mastered algebra. And that's what it kind of feels like, because some of the stuff that wasn't good from him was stuff that he was good at last year.
Well, my question is, how do you get overconfident? There's a couple of ways. It can be really easy for you early on to where you don't realize how hard it is. You can eat the rat poison where everybody's telling you you're awesome and you're in high demand and you start to believe that. Or it can just be natural growing pains where you go through seasons, games, processes where you kind of realize, man, it really wasn't this easy, and you bounce back. And I always kind of to localize this, and I look at it like a 4-year thing with CJ, because those are the years outside of the extension on the contract. And I know this is like somewhat of a cross sport comparison because I'm going from NFL to college, but I remember Colt McCoy at the University of Texas, freshman year, awesome. Just completely awesome. Next big thing, good year. Next year, not as good. And then he came back even stronger his junior year and his senior year, and he finished strong. And I think perhaps things were too easy for CJ. Maybe he kind of ate the praise and felt himself a little bit too much. And look, he also had bad surroundings, and maybe that kind of frustrated him as well when it comes to stuff that he can't control. So there's a number of things that could have happened with CJ. It's just interesting to hear him admit it, and it'll be interesting to see how they approach it.
Well, it's worth noting this was his first offseason as an NFL quarterback. Last year, he wasn't an NFL quarterback when he had his offseason. So his whole he only has one offseason of it. His whole offseason needs to get analyzed and taken apart, from what he did to what his trainers did to what his coaching staff did to what the organization did with him to how he worked with his teammates. Like, that all needs to get looked at if the season wasn't good enough. Like, the whole process needs to be kind of analyzed. And some of it from the rookie year is just, hey, you go to the combine, or, you finish the season, you have the off season, it's the combine, it's getting drafted. And then the moment that you're drafted, there's no time to rest, relax, or do anything other than just dive right in to the Texans. And a lot of the stuff the first year was probably easier to digest, more base level stuff. And when they put more stuff on top of the base level, and maybe that base level wasn't as solid as they thought it was going into year two. So this is his first real offseason. And I would tell you that if you judge how the offseason went by the on-season results, then the offseason last year was a failure. So you've got to make sure the offseason this year isn't a failure. So
well, here's the other thing too. I think that there's also an example of CJ Stroud himself. And the only reason this is even coming up is because he's admitting that he's overconfident. Like, I didn't say, hey, last offseason he was doing too many podcasts and there was too much going on. I kind of avoid that because I think naturally you're going to have ups and downs as a professional. But when he says himself that, maybe I was overconfident, or I thought it was going to be easier than it was and all that, I go back to, I remember when he was on the pivot with Bijan Robinson with Ryan Clark and Fred Taylor. And he said that when the NIL first started, there was a point, I don't know if it was between seasons, I don't know if it was in season. You can go back and listen to the interview if you want. But he said, I had to basically say it was Brian Burney, I think, who does the business stuff. I basically had to say, man, we got to slow this down. Like, we got to slow this down. I got to keep the main thing. Like, there's too much stuff going on business wise and off field to where I got to focus. And maybe history's kind of repeating itself. And again, this isn't like some sort of out of the ass type of conversation out of nowhere. He just said so himself. So maybe this offseason is just going to be a little bit different than last. I think it would be anyways, probably, because I don't think he's as much of a toast. Jaden Daniels has probably elevated himself above where CJ is, as far as the request and stuff. So who knows, man? Maybe this is just kind of repeating itself, but it's interesting to hear him say that. And I also, like, for all the talk about culture and, D'Amico's culture and right kind of guys and swarm and all that, I mean, shouldn't they kind of be there to help him in this situation if this is happening? Like, shouldn't that be something that they kind of catch? Like, that's the other thing. I don't want to completely question the culture, but I don't think, and we'll get into what
you saying the coaching staff's afraid to question the quarterback?
I mean, the coaching
I could believe it. I could believe it, by the way. I'm just asking if that's kind of what you're hinting at.
Well, I'm just saying, like, whose job is it to, like, pull him back? Like, when you talk about a culture, like, CJ said hard conversations need to be had organizationally. I think they need to be had right here. And we always try to have them. And this is kind of brought to the table. Like, if your quarterback's feeling himself too much and he's admittedly thinking stuff is easier than it is, whose fault is that? Like, is that just normal?
It's not just his. It's not just his. I think is probably what I would also say too. Like, it's not just CJ Stroud's fault. He walks in overconfident.
Well, and I think it's interesting that the the display of accountability, and I'm not picking on CJ. I think this is great. Like the realization of this, regardless of the why, is great. Like this is not like a, what an idiot, man, blah, 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 overhyped. No, that's not this. It's just the realization of this is good to see. I just hope that whatever it was that allowed it to happen is kind of a thing of the past. And I just don't know how it ends up, how this happens. Like when I see D'Amico Ryans go up there and say Kenyon Green's playing good and Shaq Mason's good and all that, like I just wonder, like if CJ Stroud is feeling himself too much and he thinks it's too easy, are these conversations being had behind closed doors? Because the face of your franchise just came out and said, my mind was not what it should be heading into year 2.
Yeah, well, here's the thing too. CJ Stroud doesn't decide what part of the offense they run and how they operate it. Like he has a say in it, but he shows up and Bobby Slowick's giving him all this to work on, and they're running this part of the offense and they're doing this, and it turns out that maybe they're not ready for it or Stroud's not ready for it. That's Bobby's fault too. Like if Bobby believed that he was more ready for this than he actually was, put another check mark in the bad job Bobby category. Like again, he does not get the mentality that we have experienced from CJ Stroud. He does not get overconfident all by himself. Like there's a village that leads to his overconfidence that he admits was an issue this year.
Cash Out YT says you're overthinking. It's possible. I mean, it might be. I mean,
I think you're underthinking.
Yeah.
You should turn the brain on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a discussion. I don't know what the overthinking. When the quarterback says that he was overconfident, I don't think trying to get to the bottom of it is a bad thing. But I mean, it's possible. I'm fine overthinking the state of the quarterback and the state of the organization. Also on the chat, if Gerard Johnson goes to the Jets, does that make Bobby more likely to stay? I think Aaron Glenn will try to hire Gerard as his offensive coordinator. I truly believe that. Now there's talk that he might want to keep Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what that means, but they got the Aggie ties. Aaron Glenn loves Gerard Johnson. There was actually talk last year that if Aaron Glenn got a gig, that Gerard Johnson could be the guy. So we'll see what happens there. I do think that's a close eye to keep. Look, if Gerard goes, I think Case Keenum should be the quarterback coach next year. I don't need like some process of Case Keenum proving himself. He's been an extra coach since he's been with the Texans. He's been an extra coach for a long time. So I think naturally, I don't think Case Keenum is going to stop being around football. I think if Gerard goes, I think it's kind of an easy transition where, assuming that they keep Bobby, and I know a lot of people don't want that, I think you just make Case Keenum the quarterback coach and call it a day. He's basically been that.
I don't think Gerard Johnson has any bearing on Bobby Slowick, whether Gerard's going to stay or Gerard's going or Gerard's getting an interview or Gerard's the offensive coordinator for another team. Like I don't think that has any bearing on Bobby Slowick's job, and it shouldn't. You should evaluate Bobby Slowick and his ability to, improve this offense and be better than it was this year. You should evaluate Slowick within a silo. Now, I suppose you could probably have the conversation with yourself as you evaluate Bobby. If this guy leaves, if that guy leaves, can Bobby go find an offensive coach to replace him? That's also certain to evaluate from Bobby's perspective. But you would think about that regardless of what coach is leaving, quarterback coach or anything else. How can Bobby help us go find a coach, and can he work with that next guy? So I don't think Gerard has any bearing on Bobby's candidacy to stay or to go.
Let's just be honest too. Like and this is just me being fair. Like I'm always going to be fair regardless of what the situation is. I like Gerard Johnson. I know Gerard Johnson a little bit. I admire the guy that Gerard Johnson is. I admire his many skills and stuff, and I think he's a bright guy. But it's just kind of interesting to me that I've seen everyone from the receivers coach, the offensive coordinator. I've seen the offensive line coach criticized. I've seen all the coaches criticized, and your quarterback doesn't build on what he had last season. He doesn't appear to be recognizing the blitzes, although it's a hell of a homework assignment because they're all over the place and the pressure's all over the place. But we just assume that Gerard Johnson's a good quarterback coach. I think it's fair to wonder what kind of job he did this year too. I think it's only fair because it's just kind of like, I mean, Bobby Slowick sucks. He's terrible. Everybody says that Bobby's terrible. I'm not disagreeing. I would like to move on, but it's like, well, let Gerard Johnson call plays. Well, we've never seen him call plays. Well, what's he doing? Oh, he's controlling the quarterback who says that he wasn't having fun and that he didn't have the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So what?
Well, look, if you're in the fire,
what did Gerard do?
If you're in the fire Bobby category, it's not keeping any of this offensive staff. It's bringing in a whole new offensive staff, and that includes a quarterback coach and Gerard Johnson. So, if I'm in the fire Bobby camp, so that includes clearing out the quarterback coach, getting a new quarterback coach in here.
Yeah,
so,
and we'll see what's up with Gerard. He's got a bright future and stuff. I just think if we're gonna talk performance and stuff, I don't know why the quarterback coach would be immune from this.
He's having the same hiccup in this year's process that Bobby did. Bobby interviewed for 3 head coaching jobs last year, and now Bobby got one opportunity this year, and that opportunity ultimately is not going to go to him. And Gerard, I think, interviewed for
a lot.
I think 6.
Three at least.
I think he got requested for 6 offensive coordinator interviews. So, so he had a lot of opportunities last year. This is his only opportunity so far that he's been mentioned with and rumored with, and there have been OC jobs open for weeks. So, he's taken the hit just like Bobby took the hit in the coaching cycle process. But yeah, if you're in the new offensive staff category, which I am, then you're definitely thinking new quarterback coach too.
Yeah, and I think it's only fair. It is SNL. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, all that, as well as the channel night stream 10:30 with myself. Videos throughout the day. Cody's doing his thing as well, and he's got the written word going. What was this morning's article for the people?
I'm writing tonight. It's going to be about Bobby Slowick.
Okay, well. Go figure. Very popular topic, that
damn it, Bobby
guy. Let's hear Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had an interesting comment in his media availability. I call Joe Mixon kind of the pulse of the team. If you want to just like understand the raw emotion of the team, he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink there. And Joe Mixon had this to say after, and it kind of snowballed into something else that CJ Stroud said. Let's first hear from number 28, Joe Mixon.
I think the question is important. It's why did it take you guys so long to get going on offense, Joe Mixon?
I just think that everybody, once we got to that moment, I think that we really felt like everybody honed in on whatever it takes to win. In a season, during the regular season, you got guys where, sometimes when it comes down to it, if you're a competitor, sometimes stats does matter. I mean, let's be real. Like, you wouldn't be here if you weren't a great player. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes the stats can get in the way, or can get in the way from, taking away from the team a little bit. But I think once we came together at the right time, I think that everybody started really being bought in, and whatever it was taking to win, I think that everybody was starting to do that.
Okay.
Who is he talking about? Because I've got a couple of ideas, but who do you think Joe Mixon is talking about that was a stats first guy early on that then needed to later buy in? I would go ahead and say out front, I don't believe it's Stefon Diggs.
I'm trying to figure this out because, and this is why like the end of season interviews are the best, because that's where you get the most transparency, because there's not really a shield up. You know that the guys that you're probably most frustrated with aren't going to be there. And you also know that you don't have to win a game next week. So there's less of a shield up. I don't really know who he could be talking about. I mean, maybe Tank. That would kind of surprise me, but maybe there's like a little bit of frustration with Tank in that, there were, I think, 4 games where he had 2 catches or less. And him and CJ had all that chemistry last year. I don't know.
I feel like there's 4 candidates for like that could fit that narrative. I think Tank's one of them. I really do. When you think about adding Stefon Diggs and coming back from the injury, and CJ's your guy, and he's your best friend, and all that. I do believe Tank could be one of them, especially because how many seasons in a row has Tank been the guy where he's been? You think about, I mean, he was awesome at community college. He was awesome at UH. He was the dude there. He was
1B last year. I mean, he was 1B when he was out there at times.
He was a dude as a rookie, and there were a lot of games where he and Nico played, and he had a better game than Nico. And so I do wonder if maybe it's not, hey, I got to get the ball, as much as it's like, we got to get Tank going. And then maybe that,
which I think they did, which I think at times they did need to.
But I wonder if focusing on trying to do that took away from,
did they
just operate again? I'm just speculating here. I think player number 2, Titus Howard. From, hey, I don't care how the O-line does. I blocked my guy.
Yeah, he did that. He was bragging about John after that Minnesota game. He was bragging that Jonathan Grenard didn't have a sack on him when Jonathan Grenard wrecked the game.
And the buy-in later in the season is him going to left guard. And, the stats don't matter there. Go in there and block. Number 3 is CJ. Is the quarterback's worried about throwing the ball. Quarterback's worried about making big plays. Quarterback's worried about the explosive plays. Quarterback's not taking what's there. Quarterback's seeing stuff, not making the throw. CJ even said, middle of the year, I'm trying to do too much. I'm holding on to the football too long. So player number 3, to me, that could fit this bill for Joe Mixon is CJ. And then the 4th one, it's maybe too far outside the box, and it's not even a player. Number 4 is Bobby Slowick. I'm worried about making the passing game look good instead of doing what works. Running the football.
Okay. I can agree with number 1 and 2. I actually thought you were going to say John Mechie. Which is actually kind of hilarious, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing to suggest that he thinks that he's a little bit better than he actually is.
I also wonder if maybe it's Cam Akers, and that's the reason Cam Akers isn't there. Like, Cam was worried about getting touches and getting stats, and then they're like, well, I'm tired of you. Mixon's healthy. See you.
Maybe he was talking about Deontay Johnson.
Well, no, because the question's about why did the offense not gel early and why did it gel late?
Yeah, maybe
Deontay Johnson was there for 2 weeks.
Maybe threw Deontay in there too. The Titus thing makes a lot of sense. Like, the fact that he was bragging about Jonathan Grenard after the Minnesota game is like one of the most tone-deaf things I've ever.
And honestly, it fits Laramie too.
Well, that's a given. Like, that's like I said, he's the guy in the pickup game who scores 7 and loses 12-7 and talks about how he had 7. That's Laramie Tunsil. That's what that is. On the super chat, swarm in the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Why didn't Christian Harris play in the playoff games?
Because he got smoked in coverage against the Baltimore Ravens, and they didn't trust him in coverage.
Yeah, he never really got healthy. Like, it's a big season for Christian Harris. Like, there was reasonable speculation that maybe Christian Harris would be able to play his way into an extension, especially with the way he finished the season last year. But with how unhealthy he constantly is, like, this is going to be a make or break contract type of year for Christian Harris next season. And if he's not around like all of camp, I think they're going to have to really, really kind of just accept the fact that you're not going to be able to depend on this guy. So this is as much of a make or break year for anyone next year, because I'm sure we'll do the basic bitch, and I'm not putting myself above it. I think Hackage is good in offseason, but there's going to be the who has the most to prove in 2025. Christian Harris is at the top of the list. Like, CJ, we know CJ is going to be here. Petrie is going to, they want him here no matter what. But Christian Harris is just going to have to prove that he can be available and that they can trust him.
Final year of his contract, he's got to show something. And how they operate in the offseason with that linebacker room will tell you maybe a little bit on how they feel about Christian Harris, because we know they have a lot of faith in Azeez Al-Shire, and we know they have a lot of faith in Henry To'oTo'o. But how they operate the linebacker room will tell you maybe the level of faith they have with Christian Harris. If there's a bunch of young guys in there to challenge him, then, maybe he's on the outs. If there's a, special teams only veteran that's added, then okay, maybe they have some belief that Harris is going to be ready.
If you would have told me like before the season, like if you would have told me that you can make this bet and you can make a parlay, you can make like a 3-guy parlay, 3 legs where it's yes or no. Yes, this guy makes significant strides. If you told me Christian Harris, I would have put yes without hesitation. I would have said boom, yes. Now a lot of it wasn't in his control. So there's that. I don't know how frustrating that is for him or not. Who knows? I have no idea.
Depends when you make that bet, because if you'd made that bet the first day of training camp, you would have been like, actually, no, I don't want to make that bet because he's hurt.
But even then, I didn't think he was that hurt.
Yeah. He basically had his leg
tried to come back. Yeah, well, yeah, he was definitely in a cast. And then if you told me Henry To'oTo'o, I probably would have said, I don't know. Huh? And then Jalen Petrie, I would have kind of hesitated too. And this is all before camp, obviously. There were context clues with both of them, but I think it's encouraging that those 2 guys took the significant strides. It's a little bit discouraging that regardless of the reason why and how much he controlled, that Christian wasn't able to do that.
All right. Well,
but Henry's a better football player than Christian Harris right now, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, like if Christian Harris healthy is still a pretty good player, but right now Henry To'oTo'o is a better football player.
Well, in July we'll step into the SNL casino and you'll make a player improvement parlay for us to see how well you do.
You want to do a way too early, like who I think can take like that next step next year?
Yeah, go for it. Who's the way too early?
I would say like the way too early, Cade Stover. I think his blocking is going to become really solid. There is zero doubt in my mind that the body transformation, like whenever minicamp, OTAs, or whatever starts, I promise you, we're going to look at him and say, "Damn, that dude's jacked," because he will 100% work his ass off, just like Henry did. Like Henry did the same thing. Like you can make a case that on a lower scale, or maybe the same, that Henry To'oTo'o's rookie season was a lot like Cade Stover's. Like as far as I think Cade Stover is like, as far as like the guy that you need to block, I think he would be one guy that I would put out there. I think that this might sound crazy. I think Will Anderson can get even better. Like I think Will Anderson can get even better than he was this year. I really, really believe that. I think Will Anderson can be in like defensive player of the year conversation. Like heading into this year, I thought Stingley could be. Never really like got to that point. He was all pro, but I think Will Anderson can get even better than he was this year.
Okay.
So I think he's going to take significant strides. So I'll put him on that list. And then I think Kalen Bullock can be even better too. I think he's another guy. It's always year 1 to 2 because you haven't had a full NFL offseason. You don't really know what to do. I think Kalen Bullock comes in and the body transformation is there, and I think he has a lot more confidence. So I think like those would be my 3. I would be hesitant to say Juice Scruggs. I don't trust any of these offensive linemen. I like Jared Patterson. I like Juice Scruggs. I just can't make myself do that. And then the other one that I would say, yes, absolutely, Blake Fisher is going to be a solid tackle. I think, and it's rough with the offensive line, but I think Blake Fisher is going to be a solid tackle. I think he's got the right mindset.
Yeah, I just couldn't ever put any of their offensive linemen in there. I just have no belief in them.
Touch of Trent says Kamari Lassiter. Yeah, I think that's a given.
God, like, he's already really good.
That's just a given. Yeah, he's already a solid CB2. I think that's just a given. There's zero doubt about that.
He ended up as one of the 2 best rookie cornerbacks, and depending on how you look at it, he's probably the best rookie cornerback in a lot of ways.
For sure. That's for damn sure.
Cooper DeJean pretty close to him, but I thought he was better than Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, Cooper's a dog, man. So we talked about the Mixon quote. We kind of started talking about some other things. Let's hear CJ's follow-up and kind of response to the Mixon quote. And this is where it gets even weirder.
This is off the rails. So Mixon says, hey, maybe some guys focused on stats too much early on. CJ's asked about it, and here we go.
I don't think it was necessarily just that. I would say it was just like, um, you have you get like a puppy feeder. You have a whole bunch of puppies. You know, the meaner puppy kind of takes over and kind of like can bully a couple of them off. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying like there's certain games where like you have to lean towards one person. There's certain games where like they take Joe away or they take me away, and then you have to learn to do something else. And for me, I think guys handle it great. Like for guys to have as much success as they had throughout their careers. Like you look at Steph. Like Steph came in with like I just want to win. I don't care how it looks. I don't care how many catches I get. Like he really like meant that too, and you can see in how much joy he had being around the guys. So I would say yeah, it was just some of those times. It's not necessarily like we're trying to cater to one person or cater to three people or just five. Or the Texans want to win. We don't. However that gets done, it gets done. Sometimes it's pretty, sometimes it's not. So, yeah, I don't really think I don't think people were, at least for me, I didn't sense that of people wanting to like take over. I just think sometimes it just shook out for some people, sometimes it didn't.
I don't even know what I mean. It seems like maybe he was making an analogy that maybe didn't apply here, or maybe he made an analogy.
Said it didn't apply. He's like, this is not really what happened here.
But then he made it. Then he made an analogy that did apply here, and then he tried to backtrack it. I don't know.
Here's the big thing. He seemed to disagree with Joe Mixon's sentiment. He seemed to disagree with the premise. Now, again, think about it. It's a little telephone here. Joe says what he says. Reporter tries to summarize it quickly to get the question to CJ, and then CJ has to, respond to that. Like if you sat CJ Stroud down and played Joe Mixon's whole quote for him, maybe it's a little bit different, but he seemed to decline to commiserate with Mixon's idea of how things went down with the offense.
Yeah. I don't even know what to really put into that. Honestly, like I was comfortable. There's some there. Like, I never felt like they were trying to force anyone.
I think they tried to force the passing attack too much, and they focused on trying to maximize always being a passing offense. And it led to them doing some stuff that was predictable and easy to pick up on. And it took away from some of the stuff that they were successful doing. Some of the advanced metrics people and this formation, that formation people would tell you later in the year when the Texans had some 2023 success popped up, sometimes they had more tight ends on the field and were running the ball better, and they didn't focus as much on getting the ball to the wide receivers, and they didn't run this long developing, get all the wide receivers open thing. They ran just some of that quick, easy stuff that they succeeded with last year. And it was like they kind of went backwards to go forwards. I really do like, if I could ask Joe Mixon again, I would want to expand him to expand. And I'd ask him, did they try to throw too much and worry too much about getting the passing offense going at the expense of everything else?
Well, I think my thing would be if we're like talking this out, I think maybe they didn't throw to Mixon enough because they were trying to get the receivers satisfied. Like I think Joe Mixon, like if you look at the targets of the Texans receivers, including the running backs, this year Joe Mixon had 52 targets, which was 33 less than Dalton Schultz. That shouldn't have been the case. Like I think Joe Mixon should have been more involved in the pass game than Dalton Schultz. I think Joe Mixon is more of a threat than Dalton Schultz. So I wonder if it's maybe not getting Mixon involved in the pass game as much as they should could be something else. We're sitting here trying to play the guessing game. So
and here's the thing: this is going to be an important conversation if they keep Bobby Slowick. If they get rid of Bobby Slowick, all right, then we're kind of this conversation's importance kind of falls away, and it's up to the new guy to make sure guys aren't focused on their stats when the season starts next year.
Speaking of Bobby Slowick, and speaking of tough conversations, CJ Stroud spoke on that, and this was what he had to say about accountability, talks, all that type of stuff. This was there was a lot here from CJ Stroud. I thought it was good to hear. I just wonder what it sounds and looks like. I wish I could be a fly on the wall when and if this happens.
Not just today, it's not just this week. It's over time, and most of them are individual, and some of them are as a collective. And for me, it's my job to be honest and my job to be transparent, and that's what I feel like I'll do, throughout this time, and with free agency and draft and everything. If my opinion is asked, I'm gonna give it, like it or not. So, yeah, and I think I would like that same type of honesty back to myself, because with that comes clarity, and it comes just clear communication and transparency. So, yeah, it'll be over time, but I definitely think today was the start of that, and we'll continue to have conversations, and and it's a healthy thing. It's not a bad thing. It's really healthy to have those type of conversations, and even if they turn into things where it's confrontation or whatever, that's necessary. We're all men in here mostly, and you figure it out, and and we all got love for one another. You spend years with guys, or you spend a whole year with somebody, you'll learn to like them and learn to have things to like about them. So yeah.
Okay. So going to have the tough conversations. It's good if they get, critical or fiery. Everybody can handle it except for somebody can't handle it.
Yeah.
We play the guessing game on who can't handle the tough conversations.
The whole offensive line.
The tight end.
Yeah, the whole offensive line, the tight end. Other than that, I think it's fine. He also said he wanted to bring Diggs back. I would want the organization to kind of protect him from himself and try to find someone younger. I think we need to get to where you got your alpha in Joe Mixon. I know they like Stefon Diggs. The next time CJ Stroud says he doesn't want someone to be back would be the first. Although he did say not all of the guys are going to be back. But I would just hope they find someone younger, maybe even cheaper, not coming off a torn ACL, than Stefon Diggs. I don't think CJ Stroud's in position to where I want him being the GM and the shot caller. So I just hope that they can find, if they got him a Buka to throw to, I think he'd be okay with it. I don't think he would complain too much if they got him and Nico was kind of the dog of the receiver group, and you can still sign another free agent or whatever, maybe even make a trade or whatever. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, the one comment about I'm going to give my opinion if asked. I like that because they maybe don't need to ask on everything for you. Like, I don't know that CJ Stroud's performed to the level where he's got input on all this kind of stuff. But hey, if they're going to scout Ibuka and they're not going to ask about the guy that threw him a ball in college, that'd be stupid. I mean, they talked to him about Cade, obviously, and then, hey, when they sit him down and ask, how well do you think you worked with Stefon Diggs? How well do you think you worked with guys that are still on the team that maybe could not be on the team? Like, he needs to be honest about that with the decision makers.
Well, here's the other thing about it. Like, Nico Collins has proven a lot of things. He's proven two things, really. He's proven, number one, that when he's on the field now, he's elite. Like, he's really, 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 really good receiver. And he's CJ's favorite target. And number two, he's proven he can't stay on the field more times than not. Like, he misses chunks of seasons more time than he doesn't. That just kind of happens.
There will be an absence in the season.
So we also know that Tank Dell, I don't think he plays next year. I don't think that's realistic. I good for him for trying and good for him for fighting, and he's going to put every effort possible to get back out. I don't think Tank Dell plays next year. Just don't believe that.
No. So he should not be, even if he does play, he's not a factor into how you build the offseason plans because he's not going to be ready when the season starts.
So here's the other thing we know. John Mechie and Hutchinson, like, if you want to bring back Hutchinson in year 3 and see what pops, I'm okay with that. John Mechie, I'm okay with moving on from that. That's kind of enough of that. You can get someone off the streets. Like Ben Skoranek could have done what John Mechie did this year. Like whatever upside
And
you
he'd have
think
been
he
able
had,
to actually play special teams.
yeah, and actually been able to contribute in other areas. So you can say bye to John Mechie. They don't have really like a young receiver, and CJ Stroud's about to get paid. So even if, like, let's say you bring in Stefon Diggs on a short-term deal, eventually you're going to have to replace him with a young receiver anyways. And he might not be as explosive. We kind of know what Stefon Diggs is. He's still good. Is he as good as he was 2 years ago? No. Is he going to be as good as he was this year? The odds are against that. So you're not one like just veteran receiver away. Like Buffalo, they went and got Amari Cooper. They barely use his ass. Like the evolution of Keon Coleman, Shakir, their tight ends, that's what Buffalo's doing. It's not their veteran guys. Kansas City, they brought in DeAndre Hopkins. Xavier Worthy's a bigger part of what they do. They went and found the young receiver. Baltimore, they missed Zay Flowers. They got in the Odell Beckham Jr. business last year. Zay Flowers is the guy that now, after that 1 year experiment, is doing what he's doing. So you need to get younger. You need to get more explosive. The other thing is, this is the slowest damn offense that I've ever seen. Like when it comes to like playmakers, like there's not a lot of speed on offense. There's not a lot of like dynamic guys outside of Nico and Mixon every once in a while. So get younger. You can still sign a veteran. It doesn't have to be a veteran who already knows that the other thing about Diggs is he's kind of already knows that he's effed his money up. Like he's not going to get the contract that he gave up. So like, that's frustrating. I don't care what you say. Like you can come in and say all the right things. That's a little bit frustrating. So Stefon Diggs on like a 2-year, $20 million deal, and he goes out and has a good year. You're telling me Stefon Diggs isn't going to try to get another deal and hold out and all that type of stuff. It's just not worth it. And he's not the guy he once was. You're in a good position at 25 to find a good receiver, find a younger receiver. You're about to have to pay some guys. So just make that happen. Like just make that happen and go get some pass catchers, multiple in the draft and in free agency. And you don't have to be in the Stefon Diggs business.
Yeah, there's some good wide receivers this year too. And they don't have to be, top 10 guys like a bunch of these guys that were awesome this past year. I mean, McConkey was a second-round pick. Brian Thomas Jr. went in the 20s. Brian Thomas Jr. was damn near an all-pro as a rookie. So you can go find that guy. And Brock Bowers is an all-pro as a rookie. He's a really good tight end. There's not a Bowers, but it shows you can succeed. Tight end used to have this misnomer that nobody's going to succeed as a rookie as a tight end. And then back-to-back years, you had awesome tight ends showcase that it's possible to be a force right away. You had Laporta, and then you had Bowers, and Bowers was even better than Laporta. From a receiving standpoint. So, tight end, it's that growing pain is not as large as it used to be for the top guys. So you want Tyler Warren from Penn State? You want to go get the Bowling Green guy in the 3rd round or whatever? Like, be my guest. There's lots of ways you could add to this offense. You're right about the slowness because it's not like Nico, it burns you. I mean, when Nico gets behind guys, they're right there with him. It's not like he's outrunning anybody. Mixon's not how many times did Mixon have a big breakaway get caught? That's a speed thing. So I'd love some speed on this team. You're right about that.
Hey, who's got next? Are we playing 21-0 skunk or what? Someone says JSN would be huge. Well, how the hell is that happening? Why the hell would Seattle do that? That would, I mean, the JSN thing, that I don't even think Madden accepts that one. If you want to trade for DK Metcalf, that would be or Lockett or something like that on top. And if you do that, I still think you draft a receiver. But I am more intrigued by all the veterans that are on the market than
I read a big article that Tyler Lockett's going to get cut.
Okay. Well,
and I'm all about that if he gets cut.
I mean, he's a very smart guy. He kind of seems like the type of guy D'Amico would like. He's a veteran. I would take Tyler Lockett. I think he's underrated. But I mean, he's not what he once was, but I'm a big Tyler Lockett fan. By the way, you can return kicks and punts right away too.
Tyler Lockett immediately would be the second best wide receiver on this team.
He is it's like going from a bad Wendy's to a really good Saltgrass of Robert Woods. Like it's like a massive upgrade. It's
Okay.
like going to a crappy Wendy's where the food's out all day and it's crappy and the soda's like run down, to going to like a really nice Saltgrass. That's what getting Tyler Lockett instead of Robert Woods would be.
But Landry, can he block?
I think he can actually.
I'm so tired of the Robert Woods can block. How about you just run plays where the wide receiver doesn't have to block anybody?
Well, that was the Kevin Walters sales pitch for a long time too. How good of a blocker he was. Remember that? It's been around, man. Tradition like no other.
Kevin Walter, maybe as in his current state, second best wide receiver on this team. Would you? So I mentioned Tyler Lockett maybe getting cut. Obviously, Debo gets cut. You're interested.
He would be your second best running back.
Yes. Yeah. You
Like
can do
it's
some,
not like Debo's
you can do
not
some fun things with him.
Debo's not what he once was. I still think you draft a receiver.
Yes.
Like I still think you draft a receiver in a prime spot. You still draft. You need as much offensive weaponry as possible. You still draft a receiver. You have the worst depth at wide receiver, but Debo is immediately like your best gadget guy. He's your second best receiver. He's your second best running back. He's perhaps a little bit motivated. And I would rather have Debo than Diggs.
You got any interest in Christian Kirk if he gets cut?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? I mean, it's like the Hollywood deal that the Chiefs had, like 1 year, $8 million or whatever, 1 year, 8, 1 year, 9, something like that. I mean, the other wide receivers, the other thing about this is you're kind of an ideal spot for wide receivers because you're a good team.
Targets.
And, I mean, look at the depth chart. Like
you can worry about your stats right away.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably come in and then they'll draft a young buck too. But I mean, there's plenty to get around there. Tyreek Hill, no, thank you. Hell no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hell no.
No. It's not my favorite Odell is it's more wash than your favorite sweatshirt. There's some washes coming for the Tyreek Hill sweatshirt. Okay. It's going to be pretty close to your favorite sweatshirt. It's probably like your third favorite sweatshirt from a washing standpoint.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do with the
also
tough conversations, all that. Yeah.
I would love Garrett Wilson. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That significantly impacts your ability to improve the overall team. Like if they
if you get a rookie, then you have a 4-year window of paying him and evaluating while you're paying your quarterback. If you get Garrett Wilson, you're essentially you're basically trading prime draft equity and you're giving prime salary cap space to Garrett Wilson. So it's a double whammy.
Yes, it drastically. If we were sitting here and we felt like they were truly a wide receiver away from being excellent on offense, then yes, do it. It's a no-brainer. They are very far away from one wide receiver away from being excellent on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would complain about it. It's just very expensive.
Yeah,
very expensive. And I don't think Aaron Glenn's going to go to the Jets and say, "Hey, I really got to get rid of Garrett Wilson."
Yeah, that'd be stupid.
There's talk that he might want to keep Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I'll believe that when I see it. Maybe there's not a better alternative. I don't think he's like his success isn't tied to him like Roberts was. So we'll keep a close eye on that too.
Yeah, I think. I mean, what do you make of this? What do you make of while we're here? It's news of the day. What do you make of Jacksonville firing Trent Baalke?
What? Like, where was that 3 years ago? Like, I like, and if you were going to do it, why are we doing it right now after all these head coaches go? Like, I'm assuming that it might have something to do with coaches. Liam, I think, backed out because
Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers,
I'm assuming that I'm assuming that not wanting to work with Trent Baalke was part of that. So now he's fired. So let's see if Liam goes back there now. But
he declined a second interview with them because of that.
Yeah. So I don't know why he's been there this whole time. Like that's kind of the confusion for me. I'm not like sitting here saying, why did you fire Trent Baalke? It's more so like, why did that not happen a long time ago? Mm-hmm. I mean, the last time that I remember like Trent Baalke being popularly mentioned was when was Peterson hired? 21?
Yeah.
It was 22 because it was after
22.
Lawrence. Because Lawrence was 21 with Urban Meyer, and then it was 22, right?
Yeah, Doug Peterson was hired. He had 2022, 2023, and 2024.
Well, 2022, like I remember when Peterson was hired, I was actually doing a Twitter Spaces, and we were talking about the Texans, and then the Jags hired Peterson, so we changed the title to like reaction to the Jags hiring Peterson, and the Spaces ended up just popping like a few thousand. And Jimmy Smith, the former wide receiver of the Jags, was like in there blabbing about whatever the hell he wanted to blab about. He was talking out of his ass. But I'm bringing this up because every Jags fan, I would say probably 50% of Jags fans had a picture of Trent Baalke as their profile picture, and they had like a clown nose on it. It was like and I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking like hundreds upon hundreds of Jags fans all had the same like Trent Baalke clown nose profile picture. And that was before he took Travon Walker instead of Aiden Hutchinson. And we were like, whoa, okay. Like, even if Walker ends up okay, thank you very much. And he still stayed there like through multiple coaches. So I'm just surprised that he was fired. The other thing about that pick is that I truly believe, and you can tell me if I'm like jumping to too many conclusions, I truly believe that if he makes the common sense pick in that situation, that I don't think the Texans win the division in 2023. Like I think Aiden Hutchinson's worth like one more game, which the Jags would have had to win just like one more game.
Yeah.
Walker's a good player, but Aiden Hutchinson's one of the best defensive players in the league before he got hurt. I don't think the Texans win the division in year one of D'Amico and CJ if he makes the right pick there.
Correct. I agree with you.
But yeah, I know Aiden Hutchinson ended up getting hurt. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Hutchinson got hurt this year. It wasn't last year.
Yeah. And you never know if he would have gotten hurt in the situation. I just kind of crazy for sure. He sucks. Trent Baalke's terrible.
It gives them at least gives them a puncher's chance that they got a chance to hire somebody a little bit better than they initially were shooting for. I mean,
so now you're starting a GM search? Like, that's what's kind of weird, too.
They were down to, well, no, they have an interim GM that'll help them hire the coach, and then I guess they'll figure out the GM situation.
Okay. So you're going to hire the coach and then the GM. Awesome.
Yeah. That's what they're going to do. That's what the Jets just did. They hired a coach. Now they're going to hire a GM.
Who runs their company better? Tony Khan with the Jags or his son with his wrestling company?
Shad Khan runs the Jags. Tony Khan.
Shad Khan with the Jags or his son with the rest. Although the wrestling company signed a deal with WWE, didn't they?
No. The AEW's run much better than the Jaguars are run. And AEW signed a deal with Warner Brothers, and now they're streamed and all their content's on Max every week. So they signed a massive deal. They get millions of dollars per week from Max as like a streaming partner, and they still have their broadcast partner with TNT or TBS or whatever the parent company is for that. So
but I think they have a partnership now with WWE.
No, you're thinking of TNA. TNA and WWE.
TNA still a thing?
TNA is still a thing.
What? Since when?
They never went away. They never went away.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that. I mixed them up. So yeah.
AEW, run by Shad Khan's son Tony, is run much better than the football team that Shad Khan runs. But Tony is still involved in the operation of the Jaguars. I don't know his exact role, but he's still involved because I see him at the food line whenever the Jaguars are in town. He's in there getting coffee and getting food. Like he travels with the team. And
I'm looking it up. Yeah, he's
a part of the organization.
I see his title. Okay.
Yes,
never heard that one.
Yeah, so Tony Khan, who's Shad Khan's son, runs the wrestling company, and then also has a role with the Jaguars.
He's in charge of TFBO. Trust Fund Baby Operations. Okay. That's an interesting one. Good for him.
I mean, we can make fun of him. He's been wildly successful doing what he actually loves.
Wildly successful, huh? Okay. That's a hot take. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. AEW is not wildly successful.
I'm not. Yeah, I'll take your word for
Just
it.
because you don't watch it doesn't mean it's not wildly successful.
No, I'll take your word for it. Yeah.
I just don't know how you can argue against it. It's just not.
No. I'll take your word for it.
I mean, they're on HBO now. Like,
oh wow.
How is that not? Like they have their own section in a giant in the streaming industry. Like, how is that not successful?
Yeah, they're doing their thing. Gotcha.
I see. This is where I get pissed off at you because you're just so fucking dismissive sometimes.
I'm saying I got you. I didn't know. I didn't know. I had no idea. I'll take your word for it. What do you want me to do? You want me to push back just to push back?
No, I want you to end the show.
I'd take your word for it. You're my leader there. There you go. Cody Stoots.
I'm tired of
big AEW guy.
Also, I'm tired of Ben Johnson's press tour already. He seems like
who started the Texans did it. Who started this? Like the coach walks into the room and all the sales staff comes out there and he claps like that. The Texans did that too. Who started this?
I don't know.
Hey, sales staff. Hey, event staff, come on down. We're going to get a video of you clapping as the coach comes in. What is that?
I mean, the Bears haven't had a lot to be excited about.
No, but everyone's doing it. Why?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, because it looks good on social, probably.
Does it?
I don't know. They do a lot of social media teams for teams do a lot of stuff that doesn't look good on social. That looks good on social. It doesn't look good elsewhere or behind the scenes.
Texans social media team, hell of a year this year, by the way. They did an excellent job. I thought.
Pretty good.
Cody, not a big fan, but it's okay.
I just think if you're going to be, I think the biggest embarrassment from a team social media standpoint is the Chargers. If they want to talk that shit and then they want to delete their tweets, like you got to let it sit, buddy. What they delete? They deleted so when the Ravens when the Chiefs beat the Steelers, basically setting it up. I don't remember, whatever it was, where basically it was Chargers win, Chargers get the Texans. They tweeted out like a meme of I think it's commonly known as the lock-in meme, where like the guy's playing with his remote control and then he leans forward to kind of get more intense. Mm-hmm. Well, then they deleted that after the Texans whipped their ass.
That's weird.
And I think if you're gonna have some fun on social media, it
doesn't really go away either.
Because it just pulls up a blank tweet now. Like it's not like the tweet's gone. Like I still have it in my bookmarks. Like it's just a blank tweet. You know,
very interesting.
If you're gonna talk crap on social media, you got to live with the result.
It's a fact,
including Justin Herbert throwing a season's worth of interceptions in one game.
It's a fact.
So
fact. Yeah, I thought the Texans brought it this year. I'm a fan. Now, Cody thinks they need to strive to be AEW. I think they're better than AEW, but that's another discussion for.
Well, you're not even comparing things that make sense.
Probably not.
You're just trying to take a shot at me and trying to poke me, and it's working. You're making me mad.
I'm just trying to strive up here. Texans social media to Cody right here. AEW.
Everybody can always be better. I mean, you want to get comfortable, you end up like CJ Stroud with a disappointing year. So everybody can always be better.
There you go. Got to get better. Got to get better. Got to execute. Got to execute. Whether we execute or not, always remember, though, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Sometimes I want to execute Landry. Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.